You're smart. You read people well. You consider yourself aware. So why did it take you 6 months to realize someone was manipulating you? Here's the uncomfortable truth. Intelligence doesn't protect you from manipulation. In fact, sometimes it makes you more vulnerable. Let me explain why. The smartest people I know have all said the same thing after leaving a manipulative relationship. I should have seen it sooner. I'm usually so good at reading people. How did I miss this? And here's what nobody tells them. You didn't miss it because you're stupid. You missed it because manipulation doesn't target your intelligence. It targets something much deeper. Let me paint you a picture. You're in a conversation with someone, and something feels off. Your gut is screaming at you, but this person is giving you logical explanations for everything. They're answering your questions. They're being reasonable. So you override that gut feeling because you can't logically prove they're lying, and that's the trap. Manipulation operates in the space between what you can prove and what you can feel. Here's what's actually happening in your brain when someone manipulates you. Your prefrontal cortex, the logical reasoning part, is processing their words, their explanations, their justifications. And it's finding them reasonable. But your amygdala, the emotional threat detection system, is firing warning signals. Something's wrong. This doesn't add up. The problem is, we've been trained to trust logic over instinct. We've been taught that feelings without evidence are irrational. So when these two systems conflict, we silence the alarm and trust the explanation. I learned this the hard way when someone in my life kept making promises they never fulfilled. Every time I'd bring it up, they'd have this incredibly detailed explanation for why circumstances prevented them from following through. And because I couldn't prove they were lying, because technically their excuses were possible, I kept giving them chances. My logic said, be fair, hear them out. My gut said, you're being played. I chose logic. I was wrong. What? Yeah. I ignored every single red flag because I was so focused on being rational that I forgot rational people don't need 12 elaborate excuses for one broken promise. But here's where it gets really interesting. Manipulators aren't usually master strategists with elaborate plans. Most of them are just deeply self-centered people who've learned that certain behaviors get them what they want. They're not thinking 10 steps ahead. They're just repeating patterns that have worked before. And those patterns work because they exploit something fundamental about how humans bond and trust. Research from Dr. Robert Cialdini on influence and persuasion shows that manipulation tactics work by hijacking our normal social contracts. We're wired to reciprocate. We're wired to stay consistent with our previous decisions. We're wired to trust authority. These are healthy social mechanisms. But in the hands of someone who only cares about their own needs, these normal human responses become vulnerabilities. Here's the pattern you need to watch for. Manipulation always creates confusion. Always. If you find yourself constantly questioning your own memory, your own perception, your own feelings, that's not self-awareness. That's someone rewriting your reality. Healthy relationships create clarity. Even when there's conflict, even when there's disagreement, you leave conversations feeling more clear, not less. But manipulation leaves you feeling like you're losing your grip on what's real. And here's something crucial that most people miss. The goal of manipulation isn't always to hurt you. Sometimes it's just to avoid accountability. Sometimes it's to maintain control. Sometimes it's simply to get their way. The manipulator might genuinely care about you in their own limited capacity, but they care about their comfort more. And when those two things conflict, they'll choose themselves every single time while convincing you it's somehow your fault. Let's talk about why smart people are actually more vulnerable. Intelligence makes you good at finding explanations. When something doesn't add up, you can create complex narratives to make it make sense. You can rationalize. You can see their perspective. You can understand their difficult childhood, their stress, their circumstances. And all of that empathy, all of that understanding becomes the rope they use to tie you down. Because while you're busy explaining their behavior to yourself, they're busy avoiding changing it. There's also this thing researchers call the just world hypothesis. Deep down, Most people want to believe that good things happen to good people and bad things happen to bad people. So when someone treats you badly, your brain scrambles to explain it. Maybe I did something wrong. Maybe they're going through something. Maybe I'm being too sensitive. Because if you're a good person and bad things are happening to you for no reason, that means the world is random and unfair. And that's terrifying. So you create explanations. You take responsibility that isn't yours. You give chances that aren't deserved. Not because you're stupid, because you're human. But here's what changes everything. Once you understand that manipulation thrives in confusion, you have a simple test. After every interaction, ask yourself one question. Do I feel more clear or more confused? That's it. Not are they lying? Not can I prove they're manipulating me? Just do I feel clear or confused? Because manipulators need you confused. Confusion keeps you second guessing. Confusion keeps you giving chances. Confusion keeps you trapped. Now, here's the part that might sting. Sometimes you already know you're being manipulated. You just don't want to accept what that means. Because accepting it means ending the relationship. Accepting it means admitting you were wrong about someone. Accepting it means facing the discomfort of being alone or starting over. So you stay confused on purpose. You keep giving chances you know they don't deserve. Not because you can't see it, because you're not ready to deal with what seeing it requires. And that's okay. There's no shame in that. But at least be honest with yourself. Don't confuse patience with denial. Don't confuse hope with delusion. Because the moment you admit to yourself, I know what this is, I'm just not ready to leave yet, you take your power back. You're no longer confused. You're just buying time. And that's a very different thing. If you're someone who keeps finding yourself in situations where you're questioning your own reality, hit subscribe. Because this whole channel is psychology for people learning to trust their instincts again. We break down the patterns, give you the language, and remind you that your gut was right the whole time. Here at Cyclipsis, we don't just talk about psychology. We make it make sense for people who are done being confused by behavior they know isn't right. Next week, we're breaking down why some people can never admit they're wrong and what that reveals about their relationship with reality itself. Your clarity is already here. You just need permission to trust it. You've got this.